if you're a copywriter and you still haven't been able to get your first copywriting client, it's not because you don't have the perfect average template. It's not because you suck at writing copy. In fact, it's because you're doing 3 things wrong. By the way, the reason I know these things is because I was in the shoes that you probably are right now, struggling to find copywriting clients and not finding any despite my efforts. And once I understood these 3 things that I'm about to show you, then everything changed for me and I was able to land my first $2,500 client in the next 1 or 2 months. By the way, this is not going to be your average video. I'm not going to give you shiny things here just to keep you engaged. In fact, you're going to be surprised at how obvious these things are that is going to make you want to click off the video and go watch the Kardashians. But just hold on, watch until the end and you'll thank me later. So the number 1, and by the way, I have everything written down here so I don't forget. Number 1 is false expectations. So gurus have brainwashed you to believe that getting copywriting clients is easy. And you have already tried it by yourself and you have realized that it is not as easy as they made you believe. At the beginning, whenever they sold you the copywriting idea, it's not as simple as just sending 10 average messages and you're going to get a client. I mean, there are some lucky people out there that just send their first average message or their first 5 messages and they got a client. But that doesn't happen to every single one of us. In fact, most copywriters send at least 100 messages and they never get a reply. And they quit because they have false expectations. They actually believe it's just as easy as sending, as I said again, 5 messages and all of a sudden they're going to land a client. But this couldn't be further away from the truth. In fact, you have to send a lot of fucking messages before you get your first reply. And that reply is not even guaranteed that you're going to have your first client with just that. Because out of, I don't know, let's say out of 100 messages you send, you got 3 replies and only 1 people showed up to a call, but it's not even guaranteed that you're going to close that client. And for that reason, most people give up. So you have to have a reasonable expectation in your brain. And you have to believe that it doesn't matter how many messages you send, one day you're going to land 1 client, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When are you going to land that client? Because you just have to send a lot of messages before you get 1 client. And if you don't get a client in 100, 200 messages, you cannot be discouraged because you already know the expectations are not as low as that. You actually have to set, I don't know, let's imagine that you say, okay, I'm going to send 1,000 messages before I get my first client. So what's going to happen whenever you send 100, 200, 300, or even 500 messages and you get no clients, then you already know that it's going to take you 500 more messages to get that client. So that's why it's so important that you have the right expectations and don't believe the bullshit that those gurus have told you in the past, because remember that they are copywriters themselves, or they have copywriters working for themselves. Therefore, copywriting is selling the dream, selling that one thing. So they sold it to you. They made it look like it was easy, but in reality, it's not as easy as you think it is. And that takes me to the next point, and it is that maybe you haven't landed your first copywriting client, not because you are not sending enough messages or because you have false expectations, but because you actually you don't truly believe you're the person who deserves to get a copywriting client. Like, I was in those shoes before. Like, I was not sending messages because I didn't truly believe in myself. I didn't believe that I had what it takes to make people money, to make business owners a lot of fucking money, so that I can make money as well. And you just have to rewire your brain. You have to do what's called an identity switch. You need to stop being the person you currently are and start thinking as the person that you want to become. So if you don't believe that you are worth or you don't deserve to be paid, I don't know, $3,000, $5,000, even $10,000 every month, then you need to start thinking as the person who actually deserves to be paid at $10,000. You need to start acting like that person. You need to start thinking like them. You need to behave like them. You need to start doing things that they do so that you can finally become that person. So you need to start thinking like, okay, so if I wanted to make $10,000, what should I do? What would that person do? Okay, so they would actually, for them to make $10,000, they need clients, right? So probably 2 or 3 clients. Okay, so for me to get clients, I need to send average. Okay, so how am I gonna send average? Am I just gonna go volume, just like send the same message to every single person, or am I gonna do it personalized for every single one of them? No, it's not gonna be volume, but it's gonna be quality. And am I gonna send free value up front? Am I gonna send them an email, a landing page, or sales page? What am I gonna do? And then once you have your goal, your plan, then you start sending outreach. But you need to start doing the things that they do, and you have to know. Again, this is why setting expectations the right way is so important, because then you're gonna send like, okay, I need to send 1,000 messages providing value before I get my first client. And then you're just gonna start doing that, and you're gonna do it. And then you're gonna be like, okay, so what does the person who makes $10,000 do after they haven't got a client? Do they get motivated, or do they actually keep pushing? Keep sending more messages. They say, okay, if I didn't get a client today, I'm gonna get it tomorrow. So that's why believing you are the right person, the right copywriter who deserves to get a lot of fucking clients and to be paid from $10,000 to $100,000 is so important. And the third reason that you haven't gotten your copywriting clients, as many copywriting clients as you want, is because you're lazy. It's just like, it's the simplest one out there. And I would say that it's either you're being lazy or it's paralysis by analysis. Like you're overthinking a lot of stuff, but you're not taking action. You're just like, okay, I'm just gonna listen to this podcast about copywriting because I need to get better at writing copy before I actually start sending messages, or I need to watch this YouTube video on how to write email copy because that's exactly what I'm gonna send my clients. But then I need to make sure that the copy is actually perfect, so I need to practice a lot, and you end up doing nothing, bro. You just end up in that annoying cycle, in that deadly cycle of just watching videos because you believe that's the only way you're gonna get to the point that you want to be. But in reality, that's taking you away from where you want to be, because the only way that you're actually gonna get good at writing copy is by writing the copy, not by watching how to write the copy. So your first copy, like first 10 to 20 or even 100 pieces of copy are gonna suck, but that's part of the game. That's part of the process. You cannot get good at something before sucking at that thing. So don't overthink it. If that's your case, and if you're being lazy, dude, just like this is something that I learned from Dan Coe a long time ago, probably almost 2 years ago. In one of his videos, he said like, okay, if you're lazy, if you're not doing the thing you're supposed to do, I want you to zoom out for a second. Like imagine you're this little person in a story or an anime. Imagine you're an anime character and you zoom out. Let's imagine you're Naruto, for example, if you watch that. What's gonna happen if Naruto becomes a Hokage? And you can only understand this reference if you have actually seen it, watched the anime. So what are the things that are going to happen if you become a Hokage? Are you going to actually be satisfied with the life that you want or not? And what happens if you actually become a Hokage? So you need to have two opposite sides of what happens if you do the thing that you want to do. For example, what do you want to do? Like what's going to happen if you get 2 or 3 copywriting clients that make you around $20,000 every month? What's going to happen? What are the things that you would be able to buy? okay, you're probably gonna be able to buy your mom a house, retire your mom, just like quit your 9 to 5, or just quit like college if you're in college, or just basically live life on your own terms without having to respond to anybody you don't like, basically. Okay, that's the good stuff. So now let's imagine what happens if you don't get your copywriting clients, if you don't make those $10,000, $20,000, $100,000 months. What's gonna happen? Chances are you're gonna be working a 9 to 5 job forever. You're probably gonna die unemployed and broke. You're never gonna be able to retire your parents, your mom. You're never gonna be able to spoil them, buy cool stuff, buy that BMW M3 competition. You're never gonna be able to buy that Rolex. You won't ever enjoy the freedom that being rich or having a lot of money actually unlocks for you. You're gonna go to a college you don't like. You're gonna be doing something that you hate for the rest of your life. And if you're a copywriter, chances of you knowing how important negative emotions are is like you already know how important they are. So instead of thinking of the good stuff that becoming a profitable copywriter is going to bring to your life, think of the negatives, think of the pain. What's going to happen? You're probably going to end up homeless. So if that's not powerful enough for you to take action, then bro, this is not for you at the end. And it's fine. It's fine if you don't make it because you don't have, like, the pain doesn't motivate you enough, and that's fine. But if it's not fine, then again, just think of the negatives, think of the consequences of not doing the things that you want to do, and thank me later. So that's it. I'll see you in the next video.